In the heart of a quaint village, a sense of excitement filled the air as everyone prepared for their beloved annual harvest festival. Colorful banners fluttered in the gentle breeze, and the aroma of freshly baked bread and warm pies wafted from the market stalls. The townsfolk bustled about, chatting and laughing, their faces bright with anticipation for the festivities that awaited them. At the center of this lively scene stood the village church, a charming building with weathered stone walls and a tall steeple that reached toward the sky. Every Sunday, the sound of bells ringing echoed through the village, drawing people in for communal worship. They cherished this place not just for its spiritual significance, but also as a gathering spot where friendships blossomed. As villagers set up booths and decorated their stands with vibrant flowers, children darted around, their laughter ringing out like music. The festival was not just an event. It was a celebration of their hard work throughout the year. As families arrived with baskets filled with their best harvests to share, little did they know that this year would hold an unforgettable surprise, one that would test their spirits and bonds like never before. Among the cheerful buzz of festival preparations, one figure stood out in the village, Father John. With his wild hair and enthusiastic grin, he moved through the crowds like a whirlwind, his eccentric personality drawing smiles from everyone he encountered. Father John was not just the priest. He was a beloved member of the community, known for his quirky ideas that often sparked both laughter and thoughtful discussions. As he greeted villagers, he chatted excitedly about this year's harvest and how grateful they should be for their bountiful crops. However, it was his views on tithes that truly set him apart. While most priests might expect a modest donation in money or grain, Father John had a penchant for thinking outside the box. Over the years, he had made some unexpected requests, suggesting anything from handmade crafts to community services. This year, as the festival approached, whispers filled the air about what unique tithe Father John might propose next. The villagers exchanged knowing looks. They eagerly anticipated his announcement during service. They loved him dearly but often wondered what whimsical idea would come to his mind this time. Little did they know that his latest notion would prompt a wild turn of events for both him and the village. As the morning sun shone brightly over the village, villagers gathered in the church for the festive service, their hearts filled with joy and excitement. The air was thick with anticipation when Father John stepped onto the altar, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. Everyone leaned forward, curious to hear his announcement. With a flourish, he raised his arms wide and announced, "This year, I'm asking for something truly special, a herd of cattle as our tithe." Gasps of disbelief rippled through the congregation. Some laughed nervously while others exchanged bewildered glances. It wasn't just any ordinary request. It was bold and completely unexpected. Father John hastily explained that he believed cattle would not only symbolize their abundant harvest but also foster a spirit of sharing within the community. "Think of all the ways we could use them. They could help with plowing fields or providing milk," he insisted, his excitement infectious. However, beneath his enthusiasm lay a cloud of concern among the villagers. Many were attached to their cows and couldn't bear to part with them. Still, Father John's charm coaxed out smiles, even if some folks were unsure about how they would respond to such an unusual call for tithes. Little did they know that this very request would soon lead to chaos during the festival. As Father John's announcement settled in, a wave of mixed emotions swept through the church. Some villagers chuckled, shaking their heads in disbelief. Only Father John could come up with such a wild idea, one elderly farmer exclaimed, a grin spreading across his weathered face. They enjoyed the humor in his eccentricity, appreciating how he always added a spark of fun to their traditions. However, not everyone shared the same lightheartedness. Many faces grew serious as the reality of the request sank in. A young mother clutched her child tightly, fearing what would happen if they lost their cattle. "What will we do without our cows?" she whispered to her husband, anxiety evident in her voice. The room buzzed with conversations as villagers exchanged thoughts on Father John's unusual proposal. Some argued it was a great way to strengthen community bonds, while others fretted about the practical implications of giving up their livestock. The laughter and chatter gradually shifted to concern as they realized that this tithe could change their lives in unexpected ways. As emotions swirled, the festival's joyful spirit began to feel overshadowed by uncertainty, leaving villagers wondering how they would navigate this surprising situation together. Amidst the rising tension in the church, a sudden commotion erupted from outside. The sound of hooves pounding against the ground grew louder, sending a ripple of panic through the congregation. Nearby, a rancher's herd of cattle had caught wind of the excitement, and they were now stampeding toward the church, drawn by the noise and chaos within. The sight was both thrilling and frightening as the large animals galloped down the village road, their powerful bodies moving as a collective force. Villagers rushed to the windows, their eyes wide with disbelief. "Look out!" someone shouted, pointing towards the approaching herd. Father John, still on the altar, turned pale as he realized what was happening. The laughter and chatter that filled the church moments before quickly turned to screams of alarm. People scrambled for safety, diving under pews or darting for the exit, while others stood frozen in shock. Just outside, the herd barreled towards the church doors, their momentum unstoppable. In that chaotic moment, it seemed as if Father John's unconventional request was about to manifest in a way no one had anticipated. A wild stampede that threatened to disrupt not just the service but the entire festival. The atmosphere shifted from celebration to sheer panic, leaving everyone wondering how this would end. The thunderous sound of hooves grew closer, drowning out the panicked cries of the villagers. As the cattle charged toward the church, an overwhelming wave of fear swept through the crowd. Villagers screamed, darting in every direction. Some rushed for the exits while others sought refuge beneath pews or behind pillars. The once cheerful atmosphere of the festival had turned into chaos in mere moments. Children clung to their parents, eyes wide with terror as they struggled to understand what was happening. The scent of hay and sweat filled the air as the herd thundered closer, their powerful bodies moving as one. A few brave souls attempted to shout commands, urging others to stay calm, but their voices were lost in the frenzy. Father John stood frozen at the altar, his heart racing as he realized that his whimsical tithe request had taken a dangerous turn. The sight of massive cows barreling down on them was both surreal and terrifying. In this moment of panic, laughter was forgotten. All that remained was a desperate struggle to escape the stampede. Confusion reigned as villagers tried to make sense of the chaos, wondering how they could possibly regain control over the wild situation unfolding before them. Amid the chaos, Father John felt a surge of determination. Standing firmly at the altar, he took a deep breath and raised his hands, calling out to the frightened crowd. "Everyone, please, stay calm." His voice boomed over the cacophony, though it struggled to cut through the panic that enveloped the church. Despite his rapidly beating heart, Father John kept his focus on the congregation. He understood that they needed guidance now more than ever. As villagers rushed past him in fear, he shouted reminders about staying close to one another and helped to direct those near the altar to create a barrier away from the doors. "We need to form a line and keep everyone safe," he urged. With a few other brave volunteers stepping forward, they began helping to usher people toward safer corners of the church while still being cautious of the oncoming herd. Father John's calm presence offered a glimmer of hope amidst the turmoil. "Just hold tight," he encouraged as he spotted children and their parents huddled together, eyes wide with terror. His heart swelled with compassion for them. This was not how he imagined celebrating their harvest festival. But if anyone could rally their spirits, it was him. A priest ready to lead them through the storm. As Father John rallied the villagers, a brave group of them sprang into action, determined to stop the stampede. With their hearts pounding and adrenaline surging, they formed a plan to redirect the approaching herd. "If we can guide them away from the church, we might just keep everyone safe," shouted one of the farmers, his voice steady despite the chaos. Armed with ropes, flags, and sheer determination, they positioned themselves at strategic points along the path the cattle were charging down. Some villagers waved brightly colored cloths to catch the animals' attention, while others made loud noises, clapping and shouting to create a diversion. The collective effort was inspiring, They moved in unison, coordinating their actions like a well-rehearsed dance. As the cattle reached the outskirts of the churchyard, the group executed their plan flawlessly. The animals, startled by the sudden commotion created by the villagers, began to veer off course. Slowly but surely, they redirected away from the building and toward an open field nearby. Cheers erupted from those still inside as they witnessed this incredible teamwork unfold before their eyes. Father John felt a swell of pride for his community. Their bravery shone through in this moment of crisis. The tide was turning, and hope began to replace fear as they worked together to avert disaster. As the villagers rallied together, they faced a pivotal moment that would determine the fate of their community. With the stampeding herd now drawing near, a few experienced ranchers took charge, calling for everyone to gather their strength and focus. "Follow my lead," one rancher shouted, his voice firm amidst the chaos. The brave group moved closer to the oncoming cattle, determined to use their knowledge of animal behavior to guide them safely away. Understanding that loud noises could startle the herd, they began clapping and shouting in unison, while strategically waving their flags to redirect the cattle's path. The ranchers moved as one cohesive unit, their body language calm yet authoritative. As they watched the herd's reactions carefully, they knew just how to shift their approach. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, the villagers pressed forward, encircling the herd in a way that gently nudged them toward a wide grassy area beyond the church. The sound of thundering hooves echoed in the air, but instead of panic setting in, a sense of teamwork ignited within them. In that climactic moment, the villagers proved they could confront adversity and protect their home through cooperation and courage, transforming fear into triumph as the cattle finally changed direction. With the last of the cattle safely redirected to the grassy area, a wave of relief washed over the village. The adrenaline faded, and laughter began to fill the air once more as villagers embraced one another, celebrating their teamwork and bravery. Father John stepped forward, his heart swelling with gratitude as he witnessed the strength of his community. The near disaster had transformed into a moment of unity, and he couldn't help but smile at the sight around him. Gathering everyone's attention, Father John took a deep breath. "I want to thank each and every one of you for your courage today," he said, his voice steady and sincere. "This was a true testament to our spirit as a village." However, as he reflected on the chaos that had just unfolded, he realized the lesson that loomed large before him. His whimsical request had almost endangered their beloved livestock and created panic among the villagers. "I promise to be more mindful in my future requests," he continued earnestly. "Our bond is stronger than any tithe." With that promise in mind, Father John felt a renewed sense of purpose as they moved forward. Together, they were not just villagers. They were a family ready to face whatever challenges life might throw their way. As the excitement of their recent triumph settled in, the villagers gathered under the warm sun, their laughter echoing through the streets. The relief and joy from having averted disaster brought them closer than ever. They shared stories of bravery, recounting how each person played a part in redirecting the stampede. Children laughed and played as parents hugged each other, grateful that their families were safe. Father John watched this vibrant scene unfold with a heart full of joy. Inspired by their unity, he joined the festivities, helping with preparations for a celebratory feast. Villagers began to decorate a long table with colorful flowers and delicious food, showcasing the bounty of their harvest. The earlier anxiety was replaced by a spirit of camaraderie, as people helped one another set up for the meal. As they gathered around the table, Father John raised his voice once more. "Today, we have shown what it means to stand together," he declared. The villagers cheered, feeling a renewed sense of community. This experience transformed not just their perception of challenges but also deepened their bonds. They realized that together, they could overcome anything that life threw their way, and a newfound joy spilled over into every heart as they celebrated their strength as one family. As the sun began to set, casting a warm golden glow over the village, the atmosphere was filled with laughter and stories shared among friends. The cattle stampede had turned into an unexpected event that would forever change the villagers' lives. What could have been a disaster instead became a cherished memory that reminded them of their strength and unity. Father John gazed around at his community, reflecting on how challenges often bring people closer together. The chaos had tested their courage, but in overcoming it, they forged deeper connections that transcended everyday interactions. Neighbors who once merely exchanged pleasantries now held hands in gratitude for one another, sharing hugs and smiles like family. This incident served as a powerful reminder that sometimes unexpected events can lead to lasting bonds and growth within a community. As dusk settled in and the stars began to twinkle overhead, the villagers made a pact to cherish each other even more deeply. They resolved to face future challenges with the same bravery and teamwork they had shown that day. Together, they realized that no matter what life might bring, they would always stand side by side, united by love and friendship, an unbreakable tapestry woven from shared experiences and collective resilience.